In your book right here, the one that you wrote, How to Cut America's Divorce Rate in Half, a strategy every state should adopt. Yes. What is that strategy?
The strategy is the states should pass a law that says that limits divorce to couples where they both agree. In other words, one person should not be able to unilaterally divorce another person.
Okay.
Unless you can prove fault. If you can prove, okay, he committed adultery, or he's been physically abusive, something like this, that's evidence of harm, and it's a case for a divorce. But if it's simply one person alleging that we have incompatibility, when the other partner thinks, hey, we can work these things out, there's no possibility of that under the present law. And I'm just saying we should make the law optional. That if you want a divorce, that you'd have to get your partner's agreement to it, or you'd have to wait, say, 2 years before the divorce could be granted. That would give time for couples to reconcile, which is not in the law at the present.
Right.
The goal is to try to strengthen marriage and reduce divorce.
Right. So in this book here, The Marriage Savers,
Yes.
Helping your friends and family avoid divorce, what kind of advice do you give in this book in help a family?
Anybody can do the things that I'm talking about here. You don't have to have a church involved. Now, we believe it's important to have the churches involved because they marry 80% of people. Poorly.
Well, it's true.
But they
For the
could
most
do
part.
it well.
Yeah.
And they can do it well, and we've shown that it can be done, it can be changed with dramatic results. Now, in that material I sent you, you should have data on El Paso and Austin and so on that I mentioned the crime rate coming down.
Right.
It just, in other words, we can change the culture if we just change the rules about marriage and divorce. And in the case of El Paso and Austin, we didn't change the rules. We simply helped the churches become effective in dealing with marriage and divorce. Help them to better prepare, enrich, or restore marriages.
So is the divorce rate then the problem of the state, of the church, or both?
Both.
Can you explain a little bit more?
I think it's strange that pastors close their eyes to cohabitation. They close their eyes. They send couples whose marriage is in trouble to counselors who actually increase the odds that couple's going to get divorced. But they don't know what works. And it's not their fault that they weren't taught this in seminary. So we need to both reform the system in the individual communities, but we also need to reform seminaries. Now, have you attempted to talk to the Southern Baptist Convention?
Yes, I have. I talked with Dr. Albert Mohler last year. I also talked with Russell Moore. I've talked with Philip Betancourt, I'm sorry, and a few other people that are leaders there. Now, I've only been able to speak with them briefly, but I did get to speak with them. I gave them some materials as well. I've been up to the Family Research Council.
There's a need for legal reform, which is what no-fault divorce reform is about, the need to change the law. But we also have to help the churches do a better job because they're doing a poor job at present. It is surprising to me that I'm in a good church where we've helped to create these reforms that I'm talking about, mentoring couples and so forth. But I've never heard a sermon on divorce or on cohabitation. Why not?
Well, yeah, it's certainly not called sin in many instances. But if you are following Christ, and if you say you're following Christ, divorce is off the table.
Yes, it is.
But there are very few churches that actually say that and preach it very clearly. Divorce is off the table. We will do whatever we can. We will help you. Of course, there may be times when something goes on that you may have to have some protection, separation, if there is some abuse going on.
Yes.
But divorce for two people that are following Jesus Christ is incompatible with everything that Scripture teaches, everything that we stand for, and everything that the Christian life is supposed to be.
Let me tell you how we handled cohabiting couples in the church where I was talking about, where we had 280 couples we prepared for marriage.
Right.
With the men couples we trained. If a couple was cohabiting, we told them they had to move apart.
Okay.
And we asked them to consider signing an optional premarital sexual covenant in which they would pledge to be chaste from now to the wedding. Totally radically different from what everyone else is doing.
Right.
Now, Harriet and I have personally mentored 61 couples. Of that number, 10 were chaste. They were playing by the rules. 51 were sexually active. Of the 51 couples who we asked to consider signing an optional premarital sexual covenant in which they would pledge to be chaste, become chaste until the wedding, how many of the 51 do you think signed it?
I don't know. I don't know. Not many?
Guess. 51. No. 43.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that is good. That's really good.
And of the 61 couples, we only know of 1 or 2 divorces of the ones we've prepared for marriage. So this is a strategy which works.
Okay.
And it could transform the culture. But there needs to be a pastoral arm and a legal arm. And no-fault divorce reform is the legal part of what needs to be done. That's what my book there is about.
How to cut America's divorce rate in half, state-by-state strategy.
And we also think that it's necessary for churches to say to cohabiting couples, we're not going to marry you unless you move apart. Very few churches, I mean, that hasn't even occurred to pastors. They just close their eyes and say, okay, we'll push you through here. Get you married as fast as possible. Well, that's not what's needed. The failure rate of couples who have lived together, the marriage failure rate is higher than that of those who play by the rules. And so it's better to get people playing by the rules.
When you refer to cohabiting, do you automatically include with that the whole idea of being sexually active?
Of course.
Okay. You hear a lot of people today that live together, they'll share an apartment, they'll share something.
If they're sharing an apartment, they're having sex. I mean, this is not a brother-sister relationship.
Right. Yeah.